Ever get that feeling?
Yeah.
Like you're hanging out with your friend group, everyone's laughing it up, but there's this little voice in the back of your head that's like, are these really my friends?
Oh, absolutely. It's like that age-old question, but for adulthood.
Right, adult friendships. They can be so much more complicated than we expect, like way more complicated than figuring out how to file your taxes or something.
Way more complicated and definitely less straightforward. We're sold this whole image of what adult life, particularly friendships, should look like. You know, all those curated Instagram posts, the perfect wine nights, finding your people.
But then real life hits you with a curveball. Like that time I really went all out, baked a cake from scratch for a friend's birthday, and crickets.
Yeah.
Not even a text message acknowledging the cake existed.
Ooh, ouch. Yeah, I think that's something most of us can relate to on some level. And that's kind of the crux of what we're diving into today. How do we separate those genuine connections from those friendships of convenience?
Exactly. And to help us figure that out, we're looking at two really different sources today.
We've got a thought-provoking piece from New Spring Church about authenticity in friendships. It's coming from a faith-based perspective, sure, but the core message really resonates beyond that.
And because we like to keep things real here, we're also taking a deep dive into the wild world of Reddit, where people keep it really real. We've got some relatable threads about those fake friendship experiences. Think of it as a crowdsourced wisdom about red flags and what not to do.
I love that we're looking at this from such different angles. So let's kick things off with that New Spring article. It's titled, "Are You a Fake Friend?"
A question we should all probably ask ourselves every now and then, if we're being honest.
It's true. It's so easy to get caught up in those surface level interactions, the, "Hey girl, how are you?"
Yeah.
with no real substance behind it.
You hit the nail on the head. The article actually argues that those superficial interactions can prevent us from experiencing the true joy of genuine connection.
Which makes sense if you think about it.
They emphasize that real friendship requires vulnerability, allowing yourself to be seen, flaws and all, which, let's be real, can feel terrifying.
Oh, 100%. It's like, what if I let someone see the real me and they don't like what they see? That fear is incredibly common. And the article acknowledges that taking the leap to be vulnerable requires a certain amount of, well, faith. But the payoff is that it allows for those deeper, more meaningful connections. And that's where those Reddit threads come in.
Right. People getting real, sharing their experiences with those aha moments when they realized they were in a fake friendship. Like, there were multiple stories of people realizing they were basically just a free taxi service for their friend.
It's almost as if they view people as commodities rather than, actual people. It's transactional. You do this for me, I might hang out with you.
And that brings up another point from the New Spring article, something I found particularly amusing. Did you see that part where they suggest if you see someone you're trying to avoid, you should just, like, run away? Like, ditch your grocery cart and make a break for it.
It's a hilarious image, for sure. And while I appreciate the sentiment, maybe ditching your groceries in the middle of the store isn't the most practical advice.
Maybe not. But it does highlight the need for healthy boundaries in friendships, which, let's be real, are not always easy to set.
Not at all. So why don't we ditch the grocery store sprints and dive into the real-world drama courtesy of Reddit?
Let's do it. Okay, buckle up, because these Reddit threads were a wild ride. We're talking stories of exclusion, people getting ditched from group outings.
Yeah.
One person even got iced out of a community watching party.
Ouch, that's brutal.
Right. Like, who excludes someone from community? That's a whole other level of...
It really makes you question people. But on a more serious note, it highlights how much those fake friendships can hurt. Even if it's something that seems small, like being excluded, it can really make you feel
like you don't matter.
Exactly. And then, of course, we've got the classic using someone for their skills or resources. There was this one story about a person whose so-called friend only called when their car broke down.
Oh, man, the car mechanic friend. I've been there. It's like, can't we just grab coffee and not talk about my busted transmission for once?
It's like some people view friendships as a transaction, What can you do for me? Instead of a genuine connection.
Which I guess, if you think about it from, like, a psychological standpoint.
Well, a lot of these behaviors, always needing validation, putting others down, never reciprocating it, can stem from deeper issues, things like insecurity and low self-esteem. Not that that's an excuse.
Oh, for sure. Not excusing it.
Yeah.
But maybe helps to understand why someone might act that way.
Exactly. Understanding can lead to a bit more compassion, even if you need to step back for your own well-being.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do we protect ourselves? How do we spot those red flags early on before we get dragged into the emotional mud.
The Reddit threads had some great advice about that, actually. A big one that came up over and over again was to pay attention to how someone makes you feel.
Oh, interesting.
Do you feel drained after being around them? Anxious, like you have to walk on eggshells? Those are all signs that something's not right.
Yeah, I can see that. Sometimes you get so caught up in trying to be a good friend that you ignore those feelings.
Absolutely. But your feelings are valid, and they're usually trying to tell you something. Trust your gut.
Gut feeling is key. Got it. But are there any, specific things to look out for? Red flags that just scream, this is not a healthy friendship.
Oh, absolutely. Reddit to the rescue. A big one. They only contact you when they need something. Red flag. Constant criticism or negativity, even if they try to play it off as just joking. Red flag. Always the one initiating contact and making plans. Major, major red flag.
Okay, this is starting to sound like a very unhelpful game of bingo.
But here's the thing, and this is important, recognizing these red flags. It gives you permission to step back. It's empowering.
So you're saying knowledge is power when it comes to dodging those friendship faux pas.
Exactly. You can create space for those more fulfilling, less bingo card-worthy friendships.
Love it. So let's say we've identified a potential fake friend situation. What's the next step? Do we confront them? Stage an intervention? I'm picturing a PowerPoint presentation on the fundamentals of friendship. PowerPoint intervention. Okay, maybe not. But seriously, is confrontation the way to go?
Honestly, it depends. It can be helpful, but it's definitely a tricky conversation to navigate. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is just create some distance.
So less dramatic confrontation, more strategic ghosting. I can get behind that. But then how do we actually find those solid, genuine connections? Asking for a friend, of course, who may or may not be reevaluating their entire social circle right now.
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that feeling a little lost in the friendship department is incredibly common, especially as we get older. Our lives change, people move, priorities shift.
Okay, that's reassuring to hear. It's not just me. But seriously, sometimes it feels like everyone's so caught up in their own lives, it's tough to, break through and make those deeper connections.
I hear that. But thankfully, those Reddit threads actually offered some hope on that front. Remember all those stories about finding their people through hobbies and shared interests? That's a huge one.
Makes sense. Shared interests, instant connection.
Exactly. Join that book club you've been thinking about. Sign up for that pottery class. Try a new workout class. You'll naturally find yourself surrounded by people who share your passions.
Like built-in common ground. I like it.
Yeah.
What about those of us who are maybe a little less outwardly enthusiastic about joining every club and class? Any tips for finding those connections out in the wild, so to speak?
For sure. It really boils down to being open to connection. That might mean striking up a conversation with someone at the coffee shop, saying yes to that work happy hour, even if you'd rather just stay home.
Putting yourself out there.
Exactly. You never know when or where you might meet someone who could become a good friend.
So be open to those unexpected encounters.
Yeah.
But finding those people is just half the battle, right?
Right.
I mean, we have to be the kind of friend that we're hoping to attract.
Absolutely. It goes back to authenticity. Showing up as your genuine self, flaws and all, being present, being genuinely interested in others.
And not being afraid to let people see the real you, even the messy bits.
Vulnerability is key. That's how true connection happens.
I'm realizing we've covered a lot today, from dodging fake friendships to finding those real deal connections. What's the biggest takeaway for you?
Honestly, you are worthy of genuine, supportive, joyful friendships. Don't settle for anything less.
Love that. And on that note, maybe it's time to ditch the fake friends and maybe those questionable grocery store avoidance tactics and embrace the real ones. That's it for the deep dive, folks. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, may your friendships be authentic, fulfilling, and full of laughter.
Infinite rocket power in every